at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good evening, it's 6 o'clock and you're watching Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, tonight. The race for the next Labour deputy leader is hotting up with controversial figures such as Emily Thornberry and Louise Hay in the running. Would you trust either of them, though? And plus, Emmanuel Macron is a defeated president, is word on the French streets, with his PM just losing a vote of no confidence. Could we see the same thing here, and how will it impact us? And Shabana Mahmood, our new Home Secretary, is talking tough on borders, pledging army barracks for migrants and suspended visas for countries who don't play ball. Is it all talk, or will we actually finally see some action? And whose side are you on? Asked the TUC union as their Congress kicks off today in Brighton. All while London screeches to a halt with tube strikes all week. Can Labour get back on side of the unions, though? Cracking panel for you tonight. Zia Youssef, head of Doge for Reform UK, and Steve McCabe, Labour peer and former Labour MP. But first, let's get the latest news headlines.
Dawn, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 1 minute past 6. Let's get that breaking news now, where French Prime Minister Bayrou has lost a confidence vote in the National Assembly, and Reuters news agency are reporting tonight that he will need to tender his resignation. MPs have been voting in a confidence motion this afternoon. That result is now in and he has lost that vote. The country will now have its fifth Prime Minister in less than 2 years amidst an economic crisis and the threat of further civil unrest as that parliamentary deadlock has persisted. Bayrou's only been in office since December. We'll keep you up to date on that result throughout the evening. Back at home, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says the UK could suspend visas from countries that do not play ball and agree to returns deals for migrants. Ms Mahmood has hosted a security alliance today alongside ministers from countries like America and Canada to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs. It comes after more than 1,000 migrants crossed the Channel on the Home Secretary's first full day in office, bringing the total this year to more than 30,000 arrivals. Ms Mahmood has vowed to do whatever it takes to stop small boat crossings. Well, the new Home Secretary has also confirmed that she will not be running for Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. Labour MPs have until Thursday to secure the support of colleagues in Westminster if they wish to replace Angela Rayner. Candidates must get nominations from 80 MPs, that's a fifth of the total of the Labour benches, by 5 o'clock on Thursday. The result of the process will be announced on the 25th of October. Downing Street has called on the RMT union and Transport for London to get back to the negotiating table to end the tube strike. Commuters across the capital are facing severe disruption as a tube strike has shut down almost all London Underground services. Tube staff have begun a 5-day strike over pay and conditions. TfL has offered a 3.4% pay rise, which it described as fair, and said it cannot afford to meet the RMT's demand for a cut in the working week. 6 people have been killed and 6 others seriously wounded in an attack by Palestinian gunmen in Jerusalem. Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to catch everyone who helped the 2 attackers. Both attackers were shot dead soon after they boarded a bus and opened fire as it reached a major intersection at the northern entrance to Jerusalem. Police have described the incident as a terrorist attack. And Prince Harry has arrived at the Well Child Awards in central London after visiting Windsor Castle earlier, where he laid a wreath and privately paid respects to the late Queen. He's in the UK for the first time in 5 months. The Duke of Sussex has been patron of Well Child, a charity which supports seriously ill children and their families, for 17 years. And sticking with royal news, the Princess of Wales has joined her husband at an engagement to mark the 3rd anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's death. Kensington Palace sources say the Princess of Wales was keen to join her husband to commemorate and celebrate the life of the late Queen. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Dawn.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much, Katie. Welcome to Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, just for one night only. Joining me until 7, my panel, Zia Youssef, Head of Doge for Reform UK, and Lord Steve McCabe, Labour peer and former Labour MP. But as Michelle always says, and it is indeed very true, this show is all about you and your views. So get your views coming in on gbnews.com/your say, and I will read as many out as I possibly can. That's a promise. Now, we have to go over to France because the French Prime Minister, Francois Bayrou, has lost his confidence vote in the National Assembly. Joining me now to explain exactly what this means is Jeremy Stubbs, who's a deputy editor of French conservative magazine Corsair. Jeremy, thank you very much for joining me. OK, confidence vote has just been lost. Talk me through it in baby steps, what this actually means.
This means that the present Prime Minister will go and have a farewell drink with his ministers and, in all likelihood, meet Emmanuel Macron tomorrow morning, hand in his resignation, which will be accepted. Now, the President could dissolve the Assembly and call for fresh legislative elections, but it's highly unlikely he would do that because his centrist bloc would not do at all well. They'd come out of it even worse than they are now in terms of numbers. And it's likely that he will try and appoint a new Prime Minister who will try and push through a new budget. Good luck to him.
I was to say, I mean, how are the French viewing this? Are they as hooked on it as we've been on our recent government reshuffle, or are they a bit sort of shrugging? I mean, it has been described as one of the worst things to happen to the French government since the war.
That's a pretty good description, really. I think the French public is so inured to it now that, you know, they could cry or they could laugh or they can just, as you say, shrug. We wait to see who the new appointed person will be. Possibly it'll be the present finance minister. So the drama goes on. It's a sort of a saga from day to day, from week to week, which seemingly has no end.
And what does it mean for Macron?
Well, he is, it has to be said, a busted flush, because although he can parade on the international stage, at home he's got no functioning government unless something workable is come up with. He will not be able to push new legislation through. Legislation that is currently in the pipeline is halted. Anything new that needs to be voted, goodbye. Everything in France is stuck, suspended on the voting of a new budget, a new finance law for the next year.
And how long could that take, Jeremy?
How long is a piece of string? It's a very serious situation, and it will take something of a minor miracle to get the country out of it. So everything is now hanging on whatever Monsieur Macron decides to do.
What is the best possible outcome for the people of France, the ordinary people of France?
Well, the best possible outcome, let's imagine that this is a kind of a fairy tale. The newly appointed Prime Minister, probably the current Finance Minister, will come up with some sort of law for the next budget which will more or less suit all of the different groups in Parliament, from the extreme left to the more radical right, which is asking for a lot. And everybody will pull together, vote for that law, and things will carry on. Everything that depends on government money will be able to continue ticking over. That's the best thing that could happen.
I hate to ask what the worst is.
The worst is this will drag on and on in the current situation. Everybody blaming everybody else. The finances of the country going into a tailspin. Everyone's worried about the cost of French borrowing. It's likely to go up even more. I mean, what the country is paying in sheer interest on its debt is just mind-boggling.
We do know that feeling, don't we, here as well?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. That's Jeremy Stubbs, Deputy Editor of a French Conservative magazine, Corsair. Well, OK, let's see what my panel make of that one, of Steve McCabe and Zia Youssef. Steve, coming to you, first of all, as the Labour representative on this panel. This sounds very similar to a lot of the things that are going on in this country at the moment. Do you think it's something we could see here with our government?
Well, of course, we have a straight parliamentary system, so there can't be a vote of confidence in the present government unless the entire Labour Party united with the opposition parties. So that's not very likely. His problem in France is that he has a completely disunited parliament, and he called an election that gave him an even worse deal. Look, actually, I look at it and I think however bad things get here, it could always be worse. It could
always be French, indeed.
And that is their problem. They have a parliamentary system and an executive president that don't actually work very well together most of the time, and we're seeing the consequences. The one big issue for us is, of course, the more Macron's power is diminished, then the harder it is to do deals with him over some of the things like migration.
Do you have confidence in this Labour government?
Yes.
Even after the recent reshuffle and the division that looks like it's going to cause?
Well, I'm not sure the reshuffle is going to cause division at all. I think that was the classic freshening up after about 14 months. And I would broadly support most of what I've seen of that. So, yeah,
there are lots
absolutely.
on the Labour left that aren't that happy with the direction.
Yes, well, I'm not on the Labour left.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. But lots of them are not that happy with the direction of travel with regards to immigration policy.
Yes, I think they're fundamentally wrong on that. It's as simple as this. If you listen to what the public are saying, we may have differences about specific elements of migration policy, but if you listen to what the general public are saying, there's got to be a tougher line and there's got to be a more effective line. And I think most people know that, and the people who don't know that aren't listening. OK,
yeah, well, we're coming to that, actually, with Emily Thornberry later on. Zia, what do you make of it? The situation in France, first of all. Are you surprised by the vote of no confidence?
Well, the first question that comes to my mind is, can we put in a request and a demand for the return of the 400 million quid that we paid...
For the boats,
the British taxpayers have paid the French government to stop the boats.
Stop the boats.
And the enduring result, from what I can tell, the only result of that is the photo you may have seen online of French border police taking a photo on their smartphones of a migrant boat departing from French shores. You know, over the last 12... since Keir Starmer won the general election, we have seen a record number of illegal migrants cross via small boat.
Yes.
Year to date, north of 30,000 illegal migrants have crossed via small boat. That is a larger number of sailors and troops that were involved in the Spanish Armada, and that, again, sadly and tragically for the country, is a record. So again, what is the British taxpayer getting for that 400 million quid? That's what I want to put. That's why I have no faith in the French government.
Do you think we should ask for it back?
I think it's time.
Did we keep receipts?
Well, absolutely. And it's time we had, this is actually a really serious point, it's time we had British leadership. It's time we had a Prime Minister who will actually go to bat for the British people and ask these questions. It is beyond comprehension that money is still being paid. It's still being paid, despite the catastrophically obvious non-result of those payments. No, I think we should absolutely ask for it back, and that's exactly what Nigel will do. OK, just quickly, Zia, the last government that was voted out on a vote of no confidence in this country was a Labour government. Time for another one? Look, as much as I would love for that to be the case, no one wants a general election tomorrow as much as people inside Reform. We have a system which makes that very difficult. Reform will be ready for it in 2 years, but not tomorrow. Look, if we had one tomorrow, I think we have every chance. I think we'd have every chance. You may have just seen in the last hour, news has come out that we have led north of 100, actually 101 opinion polls in a row. Depending on the poll, we would get a majority, right? I think we'd have every chance. Look, realistically, it wouldn't be the next day anyway. You're talking about a month. We've got an excellent campaign machine. But I think it's really important to say that bond markets have the power to bring down any government in the world. I mean, that is what history teaches. Britain now pays more to borrow money than Greece does.
In a pretty similar shape to the French with that.
We're in worse shape than Greece, so we're paying more. And if you look at our 30-year gilt yields, those are at multi-decade highs. Now, we're not yet seeing the short-term stress, like UK CDS. We're not seeing it necessarily on the 2-year gilts. But I used to work on a trading floor during the sovereign debt crisis that happened with Greece, and I can tell you when that comes, it's a bit like business bankruptcy. It's very gradually and then all at once. There's a real chance of that happening. And what's really interesting when you hear, I'm looking at this, Louise Haigh thing saying, we need to tear up fiscal rules. One of the really interesting things that happened recently was Rachel Reeves starting to cry on the front bench. Now, whatever you think of
There's a lot of women crying on the front bench at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, well, whatever you think of that, there was a massive move in the bond markets, right? And it was kind of forgotten now, but what that was, it was a massive move. And the reason for that was actually bond markets seeing Rachel Reeves, someone who's absolutely willing, if necessary, to, destroy quality of life in Britain so long as bondholders get paid. What they're worried about is what comes after her and all of the rhetoric that has come out since. And this is why I say to Reform supporters, people who want Nigel to be the Prime Minister, yes, we want an early election, but hold on to your hats, because what comes after Reeves and Starmer will be worse. It'll get worse before it gets better.
OK, interesting. We will give you a chance to come back on that, Steve. We have to go to a quick break, though. Coming up, the Deputy Leader race is hotting up, and we are going to cover that one further. But do you have faith in the potential? See you very soon.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, for one night only. For those of you moaning, don't worry, Michelle's back tomorrow. Any case, joining me now on my panel is Zia Youssef, head of Doge for Reform UK, as if you didn't know that, and Lord Steve McCabe, Labour peer and former Labour MP. Now, the race to succeed Angela Rayner as Deputy Labour leader is well underway. Louise Haigh, Rosina Alian-Khan, me neither, and Emily Thornberry, yes, we've heard of her, expected to throw their hats in the ring. But let's just remind ourselves of 2014, when Emily Thornberry was forced to resign over a somewhat snobby tweet, putting it mildly, when she mocked the St George's flag, posted a picture on Twitter with a van in a drive, I think it was from, Rochester in Kent. And Emily Thornberry also says we need to stop making mistakes and start listening. Good idea, Emily. However, we must be prepared for the fight of our lives against Farage. Now, this clip of Emily Thornberry on social media, look, Emily Love, get a 20-year-old to do it, right? Don't try and do it yourself. We must listen, she said. We must listen to what people are telling us. And then she switches the replies off. She's not really understanding it, is she? OK, Zia, let's come to you first on... No, actually, Steve, let's come to you first on this one, because we said we'd come back to you. The runners and riders, if you were a betting man, I don't know if you actually are or not, who would you put your money on?
Well, I'm not going to put my money on anyone at the moment. I mean, to be honest...
It's just so Labour.
Well, look, I'm not a betting man. I don't know who will be in the race. The real thing about this is to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. Labour needs to concentrate on governing. We don't need the distraction of an internal election.
It's not great timing, is it?
And to be perfectly honest, whoever, deputy leaders and party chairmen, as we know from the past here, are never really the best thing for political parties. There's just a pressure and distraction on the leader. So I'm not really that interested. I'd like to see it done and dusted as soon as possible. As far as the idea of having another London MP as the deputy leader, I'm not sure the rest of the Labour Party would think that was the best thing in the world. But, to be perfectly honest, I don't really care. If it was down to me, I'd abolish the post altogether. I think it is a complete and utter waste of time and a distraction. And I am much more interested that we concentrate on the things that we should be doing. The things that, see, I was poo-pooing a moment ago. He thinks that trying to do any deal with the French is a bad idea. How he thinks he's going to negotiate any improvement in the situation without doing a deal is beyond me. So I want to concentrate...
With a British taxpayer.
Yes, you said you wanted to demand more money back and you wanted to abandon the deal. I heard what you said. I want to concentrate on Labour governing, and I want to concentrate on Labour being able to make those who pretend they want to govern to stand up and explain their policies. The deputy leadership is an irrelevance for me.
OK. Zia?
Well, yeah, firstly, let's set the record straight. What I said was the British taxpayer has been asked to foot 400 million quid because we have gutless, witless politicians. First, remember, it was the Tories, actually, who
absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, neither of the main parties, in inverted commas, have covered themselves in glory.
100%. And then Labour have continued it. There's 400 million quid of British taxpayers' money has been handed to the French government to do what? To take the mick out of us, to not only send more illegal migrants here than ever from France, but also take pictures of it. It's a disgrace. But I want to say this too. I actually want to give a little bit of credit to Thornberry, because she actually said something quite insightful there. And I say this advisedly. I know you're recoiling. She said, we're in the fight of our lives against Farage. And that's a very interesting phrase. Fight of our lives. What does she mean? I'll tell you what she means. She is clearly aware that Labour is facing potential electoral oblivion. Not just like potentially losing an election, but being defunct, out of business, extinct, like the Tories. And the reason for that is they've completely betrayed everybody, a vast majority of people who voted for them. I spent a lot of time in the constituency of Runcorn and Helsby, during Sarah's campaign. That was a Labour stronghold, a very safe Labour seat. Knocking on doors with Sarah, the word betrayal came up all of the time. It was very similar language to the language people used about the Tories in the general election. And now you have a Corbyn party coming back. You have a new leader at the Green Party that does seem to be a better communicator than the old one. I think this is the worst nightmare for Keir Starmer. And when you look at the polls where they poll for example, whatever Corbyn's party's going to be called, it puts Labour on a number not dissimilar to where the Tories are. So this is, I think Labour are going to speed run now as a result of... The last 12 months will go down in history, I think, is when Labour laid the bed for a speed run of an extinction event, and it will be richly deserved.
Steve, you're extinct. Oh, you're on the verge of extinction.
Well, I think it's wishful thinking. I mean, I think the reality...
To be fair, the polls are showing.
Yeah, the polls are showing, because actually, you know, you've got a party that's been in power for 14 months. It inherited the most horrendous state of circumstances.
And they made it worse.
And it's, well, I don't think it's made it worse. I think it's actually laying the foundations for making it better. But you do have, and I'll give credit to Reform for this, you do have a party that's very good at capitalising on people's anxieties and discontents. And when you're in opposition, it's a very easy card to play.
That's quite patronising to people that support reform. I mean,
no, I'm not saying...
One in three people in the country at the moment would actually vote for reform.
I'm not patronising them at all.
They don't really understand
I'm pointing out that reform capitalise on people's anxieties and discontents. 90% of what they say is about what they...
Hold on. Let me just tell you what Emily Thornberry said today. You know, we have to stop Farage. That is capitalising on people's fears. So Labour do the self-same thing.
Well, I've just told you I'm not likely to back Emily, so I don't really know why you're putting that back to me.
But I mean, all politicians, to a certain extent, capitalise on people's fears. Certainly when
I said at the outset, I'll give them credit for that's what they've done. But the difficulty is you have to actually translate that into what could you achieve. And it becomes more problematic when you actually have to get down to the nitty-gritty of that. As the months go by, I hope, and I welcome this seriously, I hope that there will be more scrutiny of reform. I think there should be. And they should be challenged on the policies that they're advocating.
When you say more scrutiny, it sounds like you are now regarding them as the official opposition.
Well, I think you just pointed out the polls, as did Zia, and we do know that
they are not the official opposition.
We do know that the official opposition isn't exactly performing at the moment, so it's not unreasonable for me to comment like that, is it?
So is Emily Thornberry right that, you know, you have got to do everything in your power to stop Nigel Farage and reform, rather than everything in your power to run the country?
No, I think we should do everything in our power to make sure we are at the centre of British politics and that we adopt a centrist position in British politics and we do our level best to put right the things that are people's discontents and their anxieties. And I believe that's what this government is working towards.
OK, Zia?
Well, it's always funny when people say things like centrist. What does centrist mean? Well, I'll tell you what it might mean is mass deportations. You know, Operation Restoring Justice, we announced that a couple of weeks ago. We reiterated at our conference over the weekend where we said, yeah, we're going to deport every single illegal migrant in the country. We're going to leave the ECHL. Not just that, though. We're going to disapply all of these other international treaties that frustrate and prevent deportations. We're going to repeal the Human Rights Act. By the way, I could have stopped after 2 seconds of that. And already that's something that Keir Starmer and his Labour Party would not do.
We're coming to that in the next section.
And by the way, what I just described is enormously popular. You're talking, this is sort of a 70-30 issue nationally. And after announcing Operation Restoring Justice, we increased about 3-4 points in the polls. So the problem that Labour has is that the parliamentary party will never accept this stuff. Frankly, Keir Starmer is now a lame duck Prime Minister. Very well-sourced stories. And this is probably one of the most catastrophic statements one could say about the UK. Mad Ed Miliband is now unfireable. Apparently, Keir Starmer, well-sourced pieces across the board, said he wanted to remove him from the Energy Secretary job. And Mad Ed Miliband said, no, I want to continue to cause chaos and give Britain the most expensive energy costs in the world because it makes me feel good. And Keir Starmer said, OK. The fact that Mad Ed Miliband is now unfireable is probably the most alarming and catastrophic situation for Britain.
Just a quick response, Steve, on Ed Miliband?
Well, I'm not going to respond to Zia's fantasy stories, well-sourced. How do you know? How do any of it? Who told you? Who told you? Whose name are you putting to that allegation? No, you're making it up, and we all know that's what you do. You're making it up, and we know that.
The Telegraph and The Guardian.
No. Give me one name. Give the public one name.
OK, well,
Hypocrite, the editor of The Guardian tweeted it.
OK, talking of hypocrites, let's talk Angela Rayner briefly. She stepped down, breach of ministerial code for tax issues. We know that. That then led to Nigel Farage being accused of hypocrisy over using the same tax evasion as he called out Angela Rayner for. Can I have your response on that one, please, Ian?
Well, on what basis is there hypocrisy?
Well, I mean, he had to go at Angela for saying she was wrong to not pay the full amount of tax she was going, whereas he, when he was buying, or his other half was buying a home in Clacton, it was brought in her name rather than his. So this is a Daily Mirror story I'm quoting, but he has been accused of the similar hypocrisy that he accused Angela Rayner of
the Daily
getting away
Mirror
with paying
accused Nigel of all sorts of stuff, almost on a daily basis. But are you alleging wrongdoing from Nigel?
No, I'm not alleging wrongdoing by Angela Rayner or Nigel.
Justify Nigel not doing something wrong?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that he has been accused of the same hypocrisy as he accused Angela Rayner.
Angela Rayner, by her own admission, failed to pay the correct amount of tax, made a misrepresentation to HMRC, and the standards, and breached the ministerial code according to the Prime Minister's
No, absolutely, no.
So none of that is true with Nigel. So there's nothing to respond to.
OK. Quick response from you, Steve?
Well, I personally think that if you're going to make statements, as Nigel did on Friday, about Labour sleaze, then obviously when there are allegations made about your own tax affairs, they should be scrutinised with the same thoroughness and the same intensity. And the best thing that Nigel could do is publish his tax affairs like all the other party leaders do. It's reasonable to ask, where did the money come from for the house in Clacton? Who bought it? How much stamp duty was paid? How much tax has been avoided on the other earnings?
Do you think he's been...
These are reasonable questions, and they should, of course, just as Zia should, you know, I don't know what in your own background people might want to ask about. There were some allegations made about your former company, weren't there? I think when there are allegations, and particularly when you're saying that the existing government and the people in it aren't good enough, then I think you should be willing to subject yourself to the same degree of scrutiny that you're trying to subject them to.
Zia, quick response?
So my response, again, is by her own admission, Angela Rayner admitted to not paying enough tax, made misrepresentations to HMRC and the ethics and broke the ministerial code according to Prime Minister's own advisor. Nigel has done none of those things. And by the way, Nigel is one of the most productive people in the country. He works ridiculously hard. I say there's someone who works with him every single day, 7 days a week. He pays a shed load of tax. And if anyone has any doubt about that, go to Companies House and you can look at his companies. He pays an enormous...
Yes, but he pays 15%...
transparent.
He pays 15% less on some of his earnings, doesn't he?
Parliament. So this whole
No, but he does pay less on some of his earnings, doesn't he?
Frankly, in my view, defamatory statements about Nigel. The notion there is any equivalence between somebody paying the correct amount of tax, in the case of Nigel, and somebody choosing to misrepresent the facts to HMRC by their own admission and failing to pay.
So why doesn't he publish his? Why doesn't he publish his tax details like the other party leaders?
The reason why I personally would advise Nigel not to do that is because all it would do is give people like the Mirror, who basically write lies almost on a daily basis.
But didn't you call for party leaders to publish theirs?
More lies about him. That's the primary reason why. The British people know Nigel. They've known.
But didn't you call for party leaders to publish theirs?
Sorry?
I thought you originally called for other party leaders to publish their tax details.
No, I think...
Oh, you've forgotten that, OK.
OK.
I think you're mistaken.
A couple of messages on this one. Liam says Farage's situation is completely different. He's not a housing minister messing up on housing taxes. And Aaron says, I can't decide whether politicians are complacent or arrogant. Lots of messages coming in. Do keep them coming in. OK, gbnews.com/yoursay. Coming up, my top priority is securing our borders. Where have we heard that before? That is according to our new Home Secretary, though. Do you believe her? See you very soon.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Looking ahead to tomorrow and across particularly northern parts of Italy, also into Croatia, there will be the return of heavy thundery rain. Also around the Canary Islands, a few showery bursts possible. A bit of rain pushing into the north of Portugal and northwest Spain. Otherwise, a good deal of fine, often sunny weather around. Also across Greece, generally dry, just a few showers to watch out for here. As we go through the rest of the week, away from parts of Italy and Croatia, it is going to be mostly dry and sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Heading into tomorrow, and we'll see more sunshine across eastern areas. Can't rule out some showers across the west though. Fairly similar temperatures, so still remaining pleasant in any sunshine. But low pressure is still mostly dominating, particularly across western areas. A westerly flow still at times dragging in some showers and some longer spells of rain. And we could still see 1 or 2 showers, particularly across western parts of the UK. But once again, central areas, parts of the east will remain mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, which means it is going to be turning cooler overnight. We could even see some mist and fog in prone areas by the morning. Some showers just starting to push into the southwest, otherwise mostly dry, and lows reaching around 7 to 8 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Heading into Tuesday, and it should be a fairly similar start as to what we saw this morning. Once again, plenty of clear skies, particularly across the northeast of Scotland, some mist and fog in places. Much cloudier start across Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of England, and a risk of showers here. Similar too across parts of Wales and southwest England, but for the bulk of the country, it should be a mostly dry and bright start to the day. And once again, across eastern areas, the sunshine will continue and it should remain mostly dry. But we'll see more clouds start to build in from the west. Still once again some showers. Southern parts of Wales, Devon and Cornwall could see plenty of showers by the time we reach the afternoon. Some could be heavy with some hail and thunder. And with that more cloud in the west, we could see more hazy spells of sunshine. But otherwise a mostly dry, settled day, fairly similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Wednesday, though, perhaps a dry start in eastern areas, soon being replaced by further cloud and showers before we see persistent bands of rain push in from the west, turning quite blustery at times too, alongside some heavy bursts of rain. So quite an unsettled day on Wednesday, and the showers are still continuing for Thursday and Friday, but hopefully plenty of bright and sunny spells in between, where it should remain fairly pleasant.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. A broken down vehicle is delaying traffic from the A66 eastbound exit to the A19 northbound. With the A19 northbound entry slip in Middlesbrough closed, normal conditions expected around 6:50 tonight. In Staffordshire, a vehicle fire has closed a lane on the M6 northbound at junction 11A, expected to clear by 10:16. In Kent, all lanes on the M2 westbound between junction 3 and 1 are closed due to a vehicle fire, resolving around 8:38. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways is experiencing disruptions to and from London Marylebone. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson. You know who they are. Zia Youssef is here and Lord Steve McCabe, a Labour peer and former Labour MP. Now, the UK is to suspend visas from countries that refuse to play ball on returns deals and take back those illegal migrants and foreign criminals. The new Home Secretary added that the UK was prepared to cut visas for workers, students and visitors if the country did not take back their illegal citizens. Let's have a listen to what she had to say.
Very clear that there has to be a strong approach to maintaining our border, and that does mean saying to countries who do not take their citizens back that we're not simply going to allow our laws to remain unenforced, that they do have to play ball, they have to come to the table, and if cutting visas is one of the ways to do that, then I'll do whatever it takes. We're very clear as a government that, as the Prime Minister has made clear, we won't be leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. That has other consequences that we think are not in our national interest. But we absolutely see the case for reform, primarily in our domestic legal framework, tightening up the rules. In the end, this is about how you strike the balance between human rights on the one hand and securing our borders. I do think that that balance isn't in the right place at the moment. That's why we will come forward with changes to our domestic legislation and the guidance in terms of how we apply some of the convention rights legally here at home.
Zia, will it work, or is it just more fiddling around the edges?
Well, obviously it's not going to work because they're not prepared to do any of these substantive things that require political courage, like leave the ECHR, disapply all of these international treaties, to repeal the Human Rights Act. Again, they're not going to do any of those things. But it's also quite flattering because some of this stuff obviously sounds very familiar. A couple of weeks ago, and when we announced Operation Restoring Justice, we said, number one, we would send people back to Afghanistan. We would do a returns agreement with them. We had a load of Labour talking heads attack Nigel, saying, oh, how could you send people back to Afghanistan? And then Keir Starmer popped up that same afternoon saying, yeah, I'll try and send people to Afghanistan too. Then you had us say, in that same press conference, we said we would detain illegal migrants inside disused military bases. Today, this morning, the BBC led with the story that the new Home Secretary wants to house, not detain. Critical difference. Again, huge difference.
This is a critical difference.
They want to offer free accommodation to these people, not detain them, which is a huge, huge difference. And then thirdly, now they're saying, we would not issue visas to countries that don't play ball. That was, again, exactly what we said in that press conference. But again, here's the point. They want to do the Clinton card version of our policy. So what they want to do is this performative nonsense where they try to show, we're doing the things Reform are saying that they would do, but they're unwilling to do the things that actually require serious political courage. And by the way, I want to say this too, political unity. You need a whole parliamentary party with a majority to take on the blob, who, by the way, everything I just described that needs to be done, even if you have a parliamentary majority, which Reform hopes to have and intends to have, you're going to have the entire institutional establishment try to stop it. So which is why there is literally no chance at all that any of this is going to work.
OK, Steve, your new, Shabana Mahmood, basically, performative nonsense is not going to work.
Well, I suppose that's what I'd have to expect Reform to say. I think the difference, and I indicated this earlier, is you can preach about the things that people are worried about, but the reality, and we've just heard that, if you have no faith in the judiciary in this country and no faith in the civil service and no faith in the police, and no faith in the security services, then it's not surprising that you're saying, well, we've got to do it all differently, because you don't believe that anyone, apart from the little band of Reform preachers, can achieve anything. I think the issue about visas is perfectly sensible. If countries are not prepared to enter into reasonable return agreements, we should restrict their visas. I believe personally that we should have had ID cards years ago, and we would have had them if the incoming coalition government hadn't scrapped the legislation. I think the use of military camps and other bases as opposed to hotels is relatively sensible, although that doesn't come without a cost in itself. And of course, detention camps have a much greater cost because you actually have to pay, if there's going to be reasonable security, proper security costs for people whose only offence might be the way they arrived here, whereas, at the moment we're trying...
It's actually
very costly offence. Very costly offence.
Well, actually, until we know what the circumstances of each of those individuals are, that is actually a bit difficult to say. I mean, look, I don't want to over-personalise this, but your parents came to this country in the 1980s. They came to this country during the Sri Lankan Civil War. How did they come here? Did they come with student visas?
illegally.
Did they
not
come on
across
student
the
visas?
channel
How did they come?
illegally. They came to the country legally. My father just qualified as a doctor, and between them, mate.
But they came at the height of the Civil War, didn't they?
Service to the NHS.
I'm not criticising your father at all.
They've given half a
And how many doctors do you think might be? How many doctors do you think might be amongst the people who haven't been processed yet?
So this is the thing. People watching at home, the notion that we should be considering the percentage of doctors who are crossing the channel illegally. I'll tell you what the number is. It is infinitesimal. The people.
How do you know? How do you know?
Because you can look at the data that comes through from government statistics. If you come to this country,
most of these people are not processed.
You cannot. If you come to this country illegally, you cannot work. Right? They don't have national insurance numbers. So even if they were doctors, which they're not. In fact, you know what? Not only are they not doctors, there were 4 Iranian men who came via small boat. They came via small boat, and very well-sourced news articles suggested that there was a potential terrorist attack that was foiled by our security services, and a former military intelligence officer said those men came here on a small boat. This country is a tinderbox. We have had open borders for too long. And the fact that you are
that's an argument.
This argument, the fact that you're making the argument that there could be lots of doctors on this boat is
I'm making an argument for processing people.
Labour's support is where it is.
Okay,
because
Steve,
you're totally deluded and out of touch.
OK, let Steve come back on that one.
Look, I'm simply making an argument that we must process these people. In the past, the experience of this country in the past is that where people have turned out to be genuine refugees, I'm not arguing about the people who are not genuine. Where they have turned out to be genuine, they have often been a fount of great talent and great ability. And I'm saying I want to see people process faster. People who are not genuine, people who are either plants from foreign hostile governments or who are just using this country for their own ends, I want them rounded up and deported as much as every other human being in this country.
Accept any number of military-age men from Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Syria, etc.
No, I've just said.
Britain, and then interview them and find out if they plan to commit terrorist atrocities in the country.
Well, I think I would like a much better instant detection of who is who, because the fact that people are able to get in and disappear in the country is what we should both be worried about.
So then, you're just coming back to the secure barracks, that would be a good idea. If we kept them in barracks and made it secure until we could process them fairly, that sounds like a good idea.
We need them to stop coming. We don't want to process anymore. We have record numbers. They need to stop coming. They need to go back to where they came from.
Would that not be a deterrent? If they thought they were going to come to secure barracks where they were not allowed out and they were processed?
Of course. That's why the boats would stop coming. But I want to be really clear. Stopping the boats is... We're going to do that, but we've also got to deport the north of 1 million illegal migrants who are here in the country already. The country
How are you going to stop the boats? Seriously?
Steve, just come back on that. The secure barracks, if they were there and that would stop the boats and they would process there fairly, that makes sense.
I think where people arrive here and there are reasonable grounds for suspicion about them, and we have the idea now that, you know, we should perform, for example, instant biometric testing where there are severe doubts about them. I have no problem with them being detained. Of course not.
How would a biometric test tell you whether someone's a Houthi rebel in Texas?
Well, it wouldn't tell you whether they were a Houthi rebel, but it would probably tell you whether they were roughly the age they claimed to be and whether they were from the place they claimed to be and what their ethnic origin is and what family they were connected to.
And you actually said people who would be suspicious. I'll tell you what's suspicious. People, military-age males, because that's the vast majority of them, coming from countries that despise Britain, who have made the decision to cross the channel illegally and enter our country illegally, that then the people watching this programme have to pay for pretty much the rest of their lives for a lot of them. There's nothing about it that's remotely acceptable. We have to deport them back to the country from which they came.
OK, gentlemen, I could listen to you both all day, but we have to move on, unfortunately. Coming up, Labour could be losing the favour of the unions. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Zia and Steve are still with me. Now we have some breaking news for you. Firefighters are responding to a possible hazardous materials incident at Heathrow Airport. London Fire Brigade said special crews have been deployed to carry out an assessment of the scene, and part of the airport has been evacuated as precaution while firefighters respond. We will bring you the latest on that as and when we have it. OK. Now, the last debate of the hour. It's gone so fast. The leader of the Trades Union Congress, Paul Novak, has slammed Sir Keir Starmer's government for failing to deliver on its promises. Panel, has Labour completely lost the plot? Steve, let's come to you. You're the Labour. I mean, are Labour still the party of the working class? I mean, you know, Keir Starmer goes on about the working people. But, you know, the Labour and the unions used to be like hand in glove.
Yes, well,
Labour lost the unions and lost the working class.
Well, look, I think the era of Labour and the unions was a very different time. The country was full of big craft unions. The world has changed in that respect. I heard the General Secretary of the TUC say this morning, whose side are you on? And I was thinking as I was walking across London because of the tube strike and looking at what was happening and reflecting on the Unite bin strike in Birmingham, the question the public might be asking of the unions is, whose side are you on? So I think at the moment, where the unions are playing the role that they should, looking after people and their working conditions and doing their best to help the situation in this country for people to get jobs and get a decent standard of living, I will continue to back them. That is the kind of trade union movement I grew up with. But quite frankly, where the unions are actually failing to look after the interests of the general public, I'm asking, whose side are they on?
Zia?
Well, clearly the trade unions do have enormous control over the Labour Party. Remember, you know, one of the things that was stuck in the throat of a lot of British people was that when Labour came to power, they suddenly put through billions of pounds, if you remember, of pay rises.
Led to rather a big black hole, I think someone mentioned.
And you know, look, I have a reasonably nuanced view on this. Like, you know, ultimately, I find it difficult to tell. You know, in Birmingham, for example, people who wake up before the crack of dawn to go and collect the bins. You know, I find it very difficult to say that, you know, people like that don't potentially deserve serious discussions about more money. But if you look at London, where, you know, the whole of the city has basically been brought to a standstill by tube drivers who earn on average north of £70,000 per year, I don't think that's acceptable. I don't think that's remotely acceptable. And by the way, they just were the recipients. They were the beneficiary of a multi-billion-pound pay increase at the behest of the British taxpayer. And I also make this point, the ability for the government to negotiate with any counterparty on behalf of the British taxpayer at every turn has been a total and utter catastrophe. And all of those things...
How would Reform deal with this strike at the moment, the current strike? What would you do?
Well, look, the broad view, and look, I'm not going to make policy live right now on the show, but I will say this, the principle we would apply is if you're in... Look, I think if you have the ability to cripple critical infrastructure and you're being paid more than most people in this country, like tube drivers, I don't think you should be allowed to strike. I think if you're a medical doctor, by the way, and this is someone who has a lot of medical doctors in my family, right? I love the NHS and I have huge respect for what medical doctors do. I don't think it's morally acceptable that you can leverage the potential catastrophe of you choosing not to come to work en masse and basically weaponise that against the British people. I don't think that's acceptable. I want to say this too. When we're sending £15 billion a year of foreign aid to other countries, and British people are being asked to accept infinity illegal migrants turning up on our shores and put them up in free hotels, I find it very hard to say that we should be arguing with people collecting the bins, waking up before the crack of dawn.
Zia Youssef, Steve McKay, thank you very much. You've been brilliant tonight. Thank you for watching. Don't go too far, though, because up next is GBN. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Heading into tomorrow, and we'll see more sunshine across eastern areas. Can't rule out some showers across the west, though. Fairly similar temperatures, so still remaining pleasant in any sunshine. But low pressure is still mostly dominating, particularly across western areas. A westerly flow still at times dragging in some showers and some longer spells of rain. And we could still see 1 or 2 showers, particularly across western parts of the UK. But once again, central areas, parts of the east will remain mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, which means it is going to be turning cooler overnight. We could even see some mist and fog in prone areas by the morning. Some showers just starting to push into the southwest, otherwise mostly dry, and lows reaching around 7 to 8 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Heading into Tuesday, and it should be a fairly similar start as to what we saw this morning. Once again, plenty of clear skies, particularly across the northeast of Scotland, some mist and fog in places. Much cloudier start across Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of England, and a risk of showers here. Similar too across parts of Wales and southwest England, but for the bulk of the country, it should be a mostly dry and bright start to the day. And once again, across eastern areas, the sunshine will continue and it should remain mostly dry. But we'll see more clouds start to build in from the west. Still once again some showers. Southern parts of Wales, Devon and Cornwall could see plenty of showers by the time we reach the afternoon. Some could be heavy with some hail and thunder. And with that more cloud in the west, we could see more hazy spells of sunshine. But otherwise a mostly dry, settled day, fairly similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Wednesday, though, perhaps a dry start in eastern areas, soon being replaced by further cloud and showers before we see persistent bands of rain push in from the west, turning quite blustery at times too, alongside some heavy bursts of rain. So quite an unsettled day on Wednesday, and the showers are still continuing for Thursday and Friday, but hopefully plenty of bright and sunny spells in between, where it should remain fairly pleasant.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Disruptions include a vehicle fire on the M6 in Staffordshire, closing one lane until 11:15 tonight. In Kent, the M20 westbound is closed due to a vehicle fire, with conditions expected between 9:30 and 9:45. The A19 northbound in Middlesbrough has all lanes closed near the A66 due to a broken down vehicle, expected to clear by 7:26. In Hertfordshire, the M25 anti-clockwise at junction 24 has one lane shut, with normal traffic anticipated between 7 and 7:15. And on the trains, there are disruptions to Chiltern Railway services to and from London Marylebone. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to